Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome back after hopefully a really lovely and relaxing holiday to the second part of our first term, and an important term. As you know, the work that we're doing in terms of cluster and the nurturing our cluster model continues in earnest. But that SBC way, the way we do things in SBC in order to lead us to excellence is we're working through that at pace, but also there's some amazing work and activity taking place in that space. And part of our 4 priorities, I want to share that with you today, the work that's going on in order to help us meet those outcomes and take forward those 4 priorities for this year. But I always think at the beginning on an inset day, it is important to focus the mind on what we're trying to achieve. And I always set out in every inset, but every year, really are 2 overarching priorities. And those are for us within our standards and quality report to determine that we are very good and excellent in every setting and every school in the borders. That's our stretch aim, and that's something that we've got to continually work towards. This is not about HMIE, although they will validate our judgments. This is about us throughout our journey to excellence, really striving for the best for every child, for every young person in our care, and for our settings in our schools to be very good and excellent. And you will all be at different stages on that journey, but I hope you're all clear about, from the Standards and Quality Report, in your own school, in your own setting, where you're at, but also where you're going, how you're nudging forward those evaluations towards that very good and excellent. Because in the next few years, really, I want to see across the board, the vast majority of our schools and settings being in those categories, because that tells me that actually in the totality of the provision that we're offering, that we're really doing the business for the children and young people in our care. So really focused on that improvement in terms of our own evaluations within our schools and settings. And the second is that attainment and achievement. And the way we measure that is to compare ourselves with our virtual comparator and virtual metrics. And again, we're making really good progress in our attainment. I'll talk about that in a second, but really good progress with regard year-on-year improvements in attainment. But again, we never take our eye off that, because behind those numbers, behind those figures, are individual children, individual young people, and we want to give them everything that we can to give them that clutch of qualifications, that currency for them to be able to embark on a positive destination. So that is really important. So there's two really broad priorities as a service. They never change, but it's 2 that I continually harp on about, because it is important that we focus our minds and make sure we're really clear about what we're trying to achieve as a local authority. As you know, at the beginning of the year, we set out our 4 mini priorities within our improvement planning, and they permeate every improvement plan within every school and every setting across our region. Priority 1, learning, teaching, assessment. You're going to hear a bit more about that in terms of the digital sphere from Paul Graham. And James Busey is going to talk to you about the curriculum improvement cycle and give you a wee bit more on the work that we're doing in curriculum. But again, in those 2 areas, really solid progress. And again, I'm seeing year-on-year improvement in those areas, because clearly we know it's part of the learning process. These need to be as good as they can be in order for those outcomes to improve. So we need to continually focus on that excellent learning, teaching and assessment, and that excellent provision in terms of that curriculum, particularly planning that around meeting the needs of every child and every young person in our care. Priority 3, in terms of inclusion, you'll have seen I advertised for a secondment in the area of ASN, the work that we're doing to bolster ASN, but also our future planning. So again, hopefully in the next month or so, I'll be able to announce who's been appointed to that role, and they'll be communicating broadly with you all about the work that they're undertaking, but also the work that we're doing in order to strengthen our provision in terms of meeting the needs of all our learners. And priority 4, our leadership and capacity building. Again, a really exciting development. What you'll hear about in the next few weeks is, I spoke about in my last Inset Day video about that pathway to headship. and how that's going to really mirror our Into Headship programme with that same rigour. And we're looking for applications from teachers and principal teachers who are really keen on progressing at pace, and they really see headship as a route for them. And again, in the next few weeks, you'll be hearing more about that. We'll talk about the application process for that with our first year's programme kicking off in January 2026. But a really exciting development. And again, it's about harnessing the talent that's within, because we know across our service we have real talent within our workforce, and we want to give you that rigorous opportunity. If you're really keen on leading a school community, then again that rigorous year-long opportunity of professional learning in order to prepare you for that next stage. So again, more on that in the weeks ahead. So quite brief from me today, and that just leaves me to say I'm sure you'll find the next few inputs exceptionally valuable. Please again enter today with that solution focus, positivity, that relentless optimism that I have, that energy for us to start the second half of the term as we mean to go on, embracing that learning, embracing that professional learning, but also focusing on those outcomes. The job that we do is so important in the transforming of the lives of our children and young people, and as professionals, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're tooled up with our professional learning and the skills that we require, particularly in this challenging time that we all operate, that together as a profession, that we'll tackle those challenges head on, and we'll learn together, and we'll navigate through them, and we'll improve outcomes at the same time. So it just leaves me to wish you a productive day, but also a really productive and positive second half to this term. And I'm not going to mention the C word, but it's not long away. But listen, have a great second half of the term, and I look forward to hopefully bumping into you in the weeks and the months ahead. Okay, take care, and bye for now.
Hello, James Beauty here with a relatively brief but important update on what's been going on nationally with the curriculum improvement cycle. What is not changing is the end goal of Scotland's curriculum. The 4 capacities to be learners, individuals, to be citizens, to be contributors, and note that I didn't use the adjectives there because that is a change. That remains the end goal of the national curriculum. That is not changing. Scotland's curriculum wants that for all of our young people. A particular refocus is on the 4 contexts of the curriculum. So that visual there with the heart in the middle and the 4 colours. That is really driving the curriculum. So there is a lot of review, consideration, and support around how that is delivered and experienced for our children and young people. It is not just about the blue curriculum areas and subjects. We cannot overestimate the complexity of the situation. We have got a lot of moving parts in our national system, and you can see on the screen there, I'm not expecting you to be able to read them all, but there's a huge amount. Every sentence there, every statement is a moving part in our curriculum system, and all of those need to be considered, refreshed, reviewed, and connected. So this complex system, there is a complex solution to it. It is not a simple solution, but it is a quality solution that's coming. And I am confident of that, having been party to the conversations and having heard recent updates. It's important for us to know at local authority level in our schools and in our settings that this isn't something that's being done out there and being imposed upon us. Whilst it is a national effort, there has been and continues to be significant local contributions. There are members of you watching today who are part of this process, and that's really important for us as a local authority, for us in our schools. Some of the activity that has taken place already, you can see there the whole process in terms of subject areas started with numeracy and maths. That was a political decision, and so numeracy and maths will be the first technical framework, I'll come to that in a moment, subject area that will be shared and released in draft. Today, our secondary maths teachers are getting input from the national team on that, which is really welcome. So there's a lot of activity that has gone on already. In essence, the new Scotland curriculum is being built around the model that you can see on the left-hand side, which is very familiar to us because it's what we've been building our breakthrough curriculum on. It comes from the work of University of Stirling, Professor Mark Priestley. He's been consulting on the national approach. But the curriculum is designed around content, what children need to learn, pedagogy, how they're going to learn it, assessment, do we know if they've learned it, and structure, how are we going to deliver it? On the right-hand side, the whole thing is going to be underpinned by really strong, high-quality professional learning. So again, important just to know how it's being built. For you in the classrooms and in schools, the biggest change will be what's called the technical framework, the content stuff. What is it that children and young people are going to need to learn and to know? I think the most important thing to know here is teaching is teaching, content is content, maths is maths, writing is writing. Science is science. So we're not rewriting what children and young people have always needed to know and will always need to know. What is happening is we're trying to be much more precise in our curriculum in exactly what that is. And we're spelling it out much more clearly. And they're doing that in 3 different levels. So it's starting within each subject area, they have identified, and that when I say they, it's the national with local teams, big ideas. These are the big, broad themes that put together create that subject domain. Sitting underneath the big ideas are then the concepts. So those sub-level concepts that together create the big idea. And then the third level is that kind of micro level, the knowledge, the understanding, the skills, or what's been framed in the national curriculum, the know, do, understand approach. What do learners need to know? What do learners need to understand? What do learners need to do? And they're being spelled out very clearly so that we all in our schools and settings are very clear on what children and young people, what the final outcome is. Now, this is very familiar to us who have been working on the BGE and are now implementing the new BGE breakthrough curriculum, because that's what we try to do in our numeracy and maths and literacy and English, is to be very clear and very explicit on what our children need to know, need to understand, and need to be able to do. So that's what's coming for each subject area over time. And I'll come to the timescale shortly. Another key component of this national curriculum is what's called core competencies, have previously been known as cross-cutting themes. These are the overarching themes that permeate throughout the curriculum. And if you look at those, I'm sure that you, whether you've got a subject specialism or in your primary or in your ELK, you'll be able to spot things which, yes, we absolutely develop that, we absolutely promote that. These are ideas and themes that make connections across learning, that make connections across disciplines. In essence, the time frame is split into 2 parts. So at the top, you've got the curriculum review, and underneath you've got the qualifications review. But what's really important is that they are happening together and they are connected. They are not happening separately. There is an absolute commitment nationally to refresh the senior phase qualifications to align with the refreshed curriculum. So we will be assessing what the curriculum says children need to know, do, and understand. In terms of the curriculum, that has been underway, and we are at that 25-26 point where nationally they're beginning to share what they've been developing, starting with numeracy and maths this year. Over the course of next academic year, they'll be reviewing and revising that. The following academic year, they're going to be sharing and preparing to roll out so that in August 2028, so in 3 years' time, in August 2028, the new Scotland curriculum will be out in schools and be delivered in our schools and settings. In terms of qualifications, well, right now for the next 3 years, there's a lot of engagement and review. And then from 2028, that's when level 4, level 5 will be designed, level 6, level 7 will be designed, and ultimately the new qualifications will be in place and adopted from 2031, 2032. Just in terms of what it means for us as a local authority, we are in the process because back in 2023, we introduced our new breakthrough curriculum. It was the right thing to do. It remains the right thing to have done. But in 3 years' time, we will be ready to then review that and think about the new national curriculum. But what I will say is our team have been involved in the conversations. So there is nothing coming down the pipeline that is surprising us. and there is nothing that is going to cause us to think that anything we've been doing is wrong. We have been very precise. We have been very specific about what we need our children to learn, because it was the right thing to do for our children back in 2022, 2023. But it's really important that you are aware of the changes. Some of you you'll get updated from your head teacher. Others, principal teachers, deputies, head teachers particularly, it's now on us to keep aware, to keep informed. We will provide regular updates through the education team, but you can also subscribe, if you haven't already, to the National Bulletin, the website. If you just Google Scotland's curriculum, it'll come up, and then you can follow Curriculum Improvement Cycle and subscribe to the e-bulletin. They don't send out very much. When they do send out something, it's important. So the information that I've shared today has tried to be a very condensed version of what's going on nationally, and then we can be aware and be mindful, conscious of what is coming up in the future. Thanks all. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Hello, I'm going to take you through the update on how we're using our devices in school and some of the professional learning on how we can use iPads that is available. First off though, I would like to just highlight the Inspire support email that's available for you guys to drop a request or for support or advice on how to use your device in your classroom more effectively. That is something you can use that email for. You can also use it to request advice on how to reset Glow passwords or similar. And if you have any technical issues, please though use the CGI web chat, phone or email to make those requests. If you drop a line to Inspire support, they can give advice on whether or not that might be the case. You can find the web chat on every single teaching iPad, and it's highlighted here, SBC web chat. So you can ask requests for iPad password resets or similar through that, or if you're having hardware issues, you can highlight it here. The other thing we like to highlight to you is the Inspire Learning website, which is our host for our professional learning. You can Google Inspire Learning website, and it is the Glow Blogs one that's highlighted here. And it will take you into this space, and in here we have a whole load of professional learning options that are available for learning and teaching that can be done through self-direction. So you can find out more about supporting our learners, which is our accessibility tools information. You can also have a little look down towards the bottom and you can see some ideas for teaching, but you also have some professional learning that's available throughout this year and that you can look at signing up to. Well, also, along with that, there's a couple of things I would just want to highlight and just as an update. The first one is along the lines of just a change to Sketch to School. We appreciate that some staff are finding that more difficult to use with their young people, but you have available to you things like Adobe Express or Fresco that you can use as a replacement. That's also free and no longer needs a charge with that. And you could also use the other 3 apps that are on show right there. The next thing is we have a couple of live lessons available to you to join. One in October 28th, coming up is the next one at 9:30 till 10:30 or 1:30 till 2:30. Feel free, if you're in primary school, to join one of those lessons. I want to highlight the application Shobi Assessments now. That's totally inbuilt into Shobi, and you can set that as a tool for formative assessment either at the start of lessons, in the middle of lessons, or at the end, and it's inbuilt entirely into Shobi and gives you instant feedback on how the young people are responding. And in relation to that, there's also the AI tools within that Shobi space, but there's a number of other CLPL that's available for you on that, and that's such things of AI productivity, supporting our learners and creativity, amongst a whole range of different opportunities for you guys to join sessions on. So please feel free to sign up to them through Business World. The final thing, again, I'm just reiterate that Shobi Assessments is a fantastic tool to make use of. And the last thing on this I would like to highlight is if you have any young people using websites that you do not want them to make use of and you don't think it's a tool for learning and teaching, please make sure to request that to be blocked through either your admin staff or your senior management team, and they can make a request through their corporate email on the intranet, and that's where that can be made. iOS 26 is shortly coming, so just be aware of any of the changes that might come onto your iPad, but there'll be updates on how to use that shortly. Thank you very much.
Our online one-stop shop for all things SBC Way. You can see on the screen here, made up of these 3 main components. Very quickly, get onto the Launchpad. All things curriculum, all things core business in one space. Click through and find these various different flashing icons to find all things related to the content on the screen. For example, there's a direct link to the Inspire Learning website that Paul mentioned previously. Click back on the home button, operational, anything you need around the bits, operational space of your job. Staff wellbeing support, really key messages and supports available here. You've got the direct link to Business World, and you've got direct link to the Health Safety Portal should you need to report an incident. Go back. Third main section is professional learning. Direct link to the professional learning blog with all courses and all opportunities available to you. Direct link to SBC Learns for the e-learning modules. And then you've got a number of other opportunities that support your professional learning. So as I say, all things in one place, new section at the top to keep you updated, but also look out for the weekly bulletin on a Tuesday. Okay, everybody, thanks very much.